right, so this is episode 11 of our church podcast, and we've called this podcast the Lockdown Podcast. And the reason why we call it the Lockdown Podcast is because it literally started while we were in lockdown. And so I think we're pretty much set on the name. Francis and I were talking about it a little bit earlier. What does it mean, for us to have that name, the lockdown? And it's not just because that's when it was started, but also because this is where we lock down on the real issues and we can lock down and figure things out. I don't know.
I love it.
Yeah?
I do. So
this is Morgan. Most of you guys, if you're part of our church, she's been, you see her on stage. She has a beautiful, beautiful voice. She was just playing the ukulele.
God's good.
And she was, I thought you were going to play a little bit on the mic.
Oh, sure.
You want to play a little bit?
I don't know this song, but I was just jamming to it. Do it only you can do. Move it only you can move. Even the impossible is possible for you. You said it, I see it. You still do miracles. There's power in Jesus' name. Oh, all darkness defeated, and there's nothing stopping you, my God. Oh,
I love it. I love it. So good. So where did you learn how to play the ukulele? I always call it a banjo. You've corrected me like 5 times.
Yeah, I wish I knew how to play the banjo because that would make me extra unique. But
so the banjo's that round one?
Yeah.
Okay.
There's a banjo lele too.
Oh.
And it's so cool.
Okay.
Every time I get to a guitar center, I'm looking for that banjo lele.
Uh-huh.
They don't always have it, so.
Okay.
But yeah, I was given a ukulele. I asked for a ukulele on.
You bring it up just a little bit closer?
Yeah, no worries.
Sorry about that.
Thanks. No worries. I asked for a ukulele for Christmas one year. I can't remember when, and I got a ukulele for Christmas, and I didn't touch it until like a year later. It was my birthday, and I realized I had been given the gift that I wanted for my birthday the year prior. So I was like, might as well pick this up. And I think it was about 5, maybe even 6 years ago. Yeah. It was like right after. I'm 23, and it was right before I graduated high school.
Okay.
So it's been a while.
Yeah.
And I've loved having a ukulele, but just because I taught myself, and it just enhanced music for me, which is so powerful.
Yeah.
And
so when you write songs, do you write them on the ukulele? Is that the instrument that you use?
I've been using the piano a lot lately.
Okay.
Just because I already wrote so many songs on the ukulele. It's really nice to get a different feel from my keys that I'm so used to playing on the ukulele. Right. I also will like tune my ukulele up or down to fit the sound that I want. And with piano, it's nice because I don't have that option. I just have to find what I'm thinking of on my own. Right. And I'm learning piano, and it's so fun. I'm so grateful because it's just so versatile. Yeah. Yeah.
So how are you learning how to play piano?
And just by ear.
Just by ear?
Like I'll think of a song, and I'll, instead of pulling up the chords, find the chords on my own. And it takes a long time, but it's so worth it because I'm learning way faster than if I was going the other way. Right. And I really do want to learn like classics though, like Mozart and stuff like that, just because you learn that like piano becomes a breeze for you. Right. So
yeah, I'm sure you'll learn that. You've got such a beautiful voice. You're such a talented person. I remember the first time that we ever met was probably close to 2 years ago now, when you were singing for the Encounter ministry, which Encounter is our youth ministry. And so I think you were a guest. And I was a brand new pastor, because I've been a pastor here for 2 years now. And you were singing, and I'm like, holy cow, this girl sings amazing, But you know what? The best thing about it was that it wasn't. So there's a difference between performing and worshiping. Mm-hmm. It's completely different. Mm-hmm. And if you don't, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Mm-hmm. But if you guys that are listening right now or watching don't know what I'm talking about, is that it's so subtle, but it's so huge. Mm-hmm. It's such a big difference. Someone who's just performing is someone who's singing for themselves. They're singing to please the crowd. They're singing for themselves. It's not necessarily a bad thing, but worship is completely different. Mm-hmm. How do you see those two differences?
Well, even I'll fall into the performance aspect of worship. At times, I'm not going to pretend like I'm not immune to that. We have sin, and it comes out in different ways. And the way that I don't like the most is when I'm worshiping on stage with people and I suddenly become aware of the audience. That's when things change. But when I cannot sense that there's an audience, or I do not care, because the Lord has given me the ability just to be, with him, with people, not see the stage, not even imagine the stages exists. Mm-hmm. When I'm able to do that, I come into a time of worship with the Lord, which is really funny, because worship leading, you would think that as a leader, you want to constantly acknowledge the crowd, make sure that they feel seen.
Yeah.
But I don't believe that is our goal, because making the crowd feel seen doesn't exactly. Who are we worshiping for? Right. We're worshiping for Christ.
Yeah.
The crowd should be able to sense that I'm not here necessarily. I'm here for them. Yeah. But I'm mostly here for Jesus, and that's why I should be a worship leader, because I am here for Jesus and not for them. Yeah. So it's a very subtle difference, but luckily I've been doing this for a while, so I'm pretty used to being able to ask the Lord in that moment to bring me back into worship and bring me out of people pleasing, because I am people pleasing is definitely my most probably common sin that I think I struggle with.
Yeah, I think we all struggle with at different levels, with people pleasing. Do you mind if I bring this down just a little bit?
Not at all.
So you can maybe go like that. That might be better. That way I can actually see you.
Nice.
That's so crazy what you were just sharing, because I go through the exact same thing when I'm preaching. So I'm preaching for the glory of God. Mm-hmm. That's my goal. I want to just add clarity to people understanding the scriptures and understanding who Jesus is. But there comes a moment when you're literally, I think it's the enemy, to be quite honest.
Yeah.
You're in the middle of a message and you're preaching, and here's the question that comes into my mind is this: I wonder if I'm doing a good job.
Yep.
And what does that mean to me? It means, do people like me?
Yeah.
Do people like me? Are people accepting me? Am I living up to their expectations? All those things.
Yeah. Yes.
That's sinful. I think it's always there, but we have to fight it. We have to fight it. Mm-hmm. Because if we go down that road, then we end up turning into a church that is really not for the glory of God, but it's about fulfilling people's needs.
It's the entertainment. We're not the entertainment in this industry.
Exactly.
It's funny that you say that. I recently met a couple people that were talking to me about church and what church should be. And they said, we obviously we need to go to a church that's entertaining, because that's what church is supposed to be. Mm-hmm. And in that moment, my heart kind of broke, because that's not what church is supposed to be. That's not what he calls church to be. It's not for our flesh. It's not to entertain our flesh. In fact, it should even be more flesh inflicting than flesh comforting. So that was interesting.
That's really good.
Yeah.
That's really good. I think we have to, you're absolutely right. I think it's something that we have to constantly be aware of and also fight, because there's two things. One is we have to glorify God, but at the same time we're leading people. Like we're supposed to guide them. And so can you talk to me a little bit about, as a worship leader? Oh, by the way, if you guys don't know Morgan, she works with the youth at our church. She's on staff now for like 2 months. She works with our youth, and she also is part of the worship team, kind of a key person in the worship team. And so the question I want to ask you, if that's just if people don't know that you're in worship, even though they probably know because of all the things that we've been talking about. But talk about the whole idea of how do you be in the moment of worship, like you're worshiping on stage. How do you couple that with leading people into worship without making it about anything other than Christ-centered? Does that make sense? Because like for me, as a worship, not a worship leader, but as someone worshiping in church, I'm not thinking about anybody. Yeah. I'm just worshiping Jesus. Yeah. So you guys are in a weird spot because you're on stage. You're on a stage that's higher than everybody else. Everybody's looking at you. And then your role gets really interesting because you're supposed to be worshiping in spirit and in truth, but at the same time trying to get people out of the funk that they're in to connect with what you guys are doing. It's almost an impossible job.
Yeah, we need God. We're going to need Jesus.
Yeah.
Because if we don't know him, it's impossible to do it. The first thing that came to my mind was lack of compromise. No compromising. Like if I feel called to get on my knees in worship, I pray I do it.
Yeah.
I pray I do not overthink that moment, just because it's for him. And if I hear, I can't pretend like there's any coincidences. If I hear, get on your knees, like you need this, for us, like you could use this, like this. It's just, it's a beautiful sacred moment when I listen. So no compromising. If I feel as though I am being too vocal, like I'm thinking too hard about my vocals, which isn't a natural, when you have this voice, like you can, I either, be absence of self, presence of God, and not think too hard about it and just let the vocals do what they're doing, or think too hard about the vocals. It can naturally happen. So if I notice I'm thinking about my vocals and where they're going to go, I have to get off the mic. Like no compromising. Like I have to take myself off the mic and let myself enter into a worshipful moment before I try to force it. Yeah. And trust that the people around me are worshiping. Yeah. Just trust it. Because the worst thing that I feel like I can do is continue to care so much about vocals when I'm supposed to be in worship. And that part is, I don't know, and like as time has progressed, I've just found like a nice rhythm of how to walk this out with the Lord. So I'm grateful for that. And this might bless somebody who's going through that too in a worshiping experience where they're like, oh, like I care too much about my vocals when I'm singing and I should be worshiping. And this isn't how it goes when I'm at my house alone worshiping the Lord. Right. Like get off the mic. Yeah. Trust that the people can read the lyrics and worship, and it's not your job. It's your job to worship the Lord. Yeah. And show people what it looks like to authentically worship the Lord. Yeah. That's my job. And it's not my job to think that I'm the savior and have a savior complex and they need me to sing. Yeah. They don't. They don't. There's so many elements going on. Yeah. If you need to get back into worship, if I need to get back into worship, I'm going to do it because that's why I'm here. Yeah. So that was pretty much all I thought of.
You know what's crazy is that, God's doing something amazing in our church through worship. Like one of the things that I thought 2 years ago when I met you at an encounter was that there was something happening in that moment. I don't even remember if the kids were connected into worship or not. I don't remember that part. I do remember that whoever was on stage with you, there was this worship moment, and I'm like, it was just like this image that I'm like, that's what I want our church to be. Mm-hmm. That's what I want our church to be. Mm-hmm. It's so hard to put into words, but there was something in the spirit of that worship that was like, I identified it, and I'm like, that's what it is. That's what it is. And it's so beautiful because 2 years later, now our stage, what's happening in worship at our church is very interesting because there's breakthrough happening in people's lives, and there's some pushback because some people don't understand it, because our church is 150 years old, right? So we carry the momentum of 150 years of history, of tradition, of all the things that have been done in a certain way, not bad or good, just traditions that have been done in a certain way. And so we're bringing in something that is so completely different that some people are loving it, other people are indifferent, and then other people are like, I don't know if I like this or not, because it's so different. But it's such a beautiful thing that we're able to see little by little how people are getting it, they're understanding it, and they're participating in it. One of the things that I don't know if I shared this with you, and I definitely shared it with Tony. Tony is our worship leader. I shared, I think, with him. I might have shared it with you too. I was in this gathering at my house. We were having lunch after church. It was like, I don't know how many people, maybe 10 people from our church. And we were just talking. And they said something that just like, it was hard to like, I got emotional just because of what I was hearing. And they were like, they were saying, I love the worship at our church so much. And the guy that was saying it, he's not a guy that raises his hands or sings loud or does any of that stuff. He's like, I saw what you guys were doing on stage, and the worship was so powerful. He said it was almost like looking at heaven, like what heaven's going to be like. And he says that in his heart, he felt like he wanted to run on stage and just be part of that moment with you. And you know what I thought? You don't have to go on stage.
I know. Oh, you don't.
Just where you're at right now. Oh. So it's the whole thing of educating as well. Educating as well. Yeah. I tell Tony this all the time. Worship for you guys is such a familiar thing. It's such a normal thing. Like you sing all the time. You're always singing all day. So you're constantly worshiping the Lord. Most people don't do that. Yeah. So when you're on stage and you're thinking about people not worshiping at their full potential, in your mind, it might be like, just worship, but it's hard because they've never really done it before. Yeah. It's like me sitting at the drums. I've been drumming since I was 13. And then me telling someone, hey, just sit down, just do what I did. You can't, because you don't have the practice. And so I think in a way that's what's happening with our church now, is they're starting to understand, they're starting to connect, and it's beautiful. Yeah. It's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, I think that, like, at first, all of a sudden in my brain, while you were talking earlier, it said no pride. Like, when we were talking about encounter. Oh yeah. Like, there's just no pride. Like when we worship, there's no pride in our vocals. There's no pride in our capabilities. Yeah. Our instrument capabilities, just because we know how capable the Lord is. Yeah. So much more capable than we physically are, vocally, instrumentally. He's what we're doing for him, it's not, he doesn't need it. No. He doesn't need it. No. And to notice that, be fully aware of that, and then worship is just so powerful. You don't even need to, it's not something you need to say. I need to say, just having awareness of, like, the one that I'm worshiping does not need my worship, and he can do so much greater, and I cannot look at what I do as end all be all. Right. This is amazing. Right. That's when the moment is missed. That is when it is not worship, and that it is self. Yeah. And I'm really grateful for a team that captures that lack of pride in ourselves. Yeah. Just that pride in our Savior, in our hope in Jesus, in the Lord. It's just something so beautiful that in such a prideful world, we don't get to see every day. Right. We don't get to feel every day.
No. So. Yeah, I love what you said. It's very attractive. It's very attractive, what you guys are doing. Just the way that, what we're doing as a church in general, what's happening is that I actually have trouble putting it into words. I don't know. It's like there's this like we're becoming aware of something that's been true since the beginning. Yeah. Like it's always been there. Yeah. Right. But all of a sudden it's becoming clear. Mm-hmm. And we're because I love the way this guy described it. Like it's like a glimpse of heaven. Like this glimpse of like, okay, that's a little bit of what it's going to be like. Yeah. You know, yeah. Where there's peace, where there's no bills, there's no stress. You're just caught up in the moment where you're complete. You don't lack anything. No. You know, you're not stressed. You're not bored. It's just this perfection, right? It's like back to Eden in a way, you know, like you think about the Garden of Eden where there's perfect balance, perfect communication with God, no shame. Yeah. You know, there's those moments that we get here on earth that are like, okay, this is just like, we're looking at it like in a mirror, right? But pretty soon we'll see it face to face. Yes. And it gives us hope. Yes. Right? Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. It's just like heaven. It's, those moments of peace. It's really funny too, because it's not like there's nothing going on. It's not like 100% comfortable because, you know, there is the act of worship happening. So it's not like when everything is calm and everything is peaceful. It's like you are partaking in something magnificent. Yeah. You are partaking just by being there and being in it. Yeah. You are partaking in something heavenly. Yeah. We are partaking in heavenly matters. Yeah. And that's the most attractive thing that could be on this earth is a glimpse of heaven. So it doesn't shock me if people come in and they're captivated, just as, you know, the Lord said, our love for each other and the things that will draw people in is our true worship. Yeah. That's just nothing else brings people into or makes people want anything more than heaven, I think.
I love that. How do we keep this going? Like, how do we allow for it to continue? Because I almost feel like it's like when you're just like opening up like you're just opening up the faucet and the like little drips are coming out. Yeah. It's like, I want to keep opening up that thing so that it can flow and continue. Yeah.
I think that honestly, I compared that to, here's a nugget about me. I am a recovering bulimic. So I've had an eating disorder and I'm recovered. I'm in recovery for that currently. And when you said keep it going, I thought of, what it would look like if I decided, you know, I'm currently in my introducing exercise back into my routine phase so that I don't necessarily feel like I can't move my body because I'm so heavy and I'm used to being so small and able. But I thought about like, well, if I want to get, you know, really fit, then I'm going to amp it up. I'm going to continue to do more and more and more. But the truth is that what we're doing right now is he's using that. Yeah. And there isn't any more. Like we're experiencing heaven right now when we are lack of self, enjoying worship and loving each other like the church. Like we are entering that right now. There's been a period of time possibly at this church where they haven't experienced that. So now it seems now that we're returning to our roots that the Lord has, you know, showed us this is what works. Mm-hmm. Now that we're walking in that, you know, it's not going to get like, we don't need to crank it up. Right. He's doing the work. Yeah. Like,
very interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. So we're just going to keep doing what we're doing. Yeah. And watch him, because at this rate, this is the rate that he has chosen for us. Yeah. And at this rate of being obedient, he's going to be opening the doors. We're going to be watching him open the doors.
I love that.
Yeah, but we don't need to strive. Yeah. That's the best part.
I love that. Yeah. Yeah, because that's when we ruin it, right? Yes. It's like, oh, there's such a great thing going on. I want it to continue. So then you grab control of it and then you just ruin the whole thing.
Yeah, because it's not ours.
It's not yours anymore. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's true. Yeah. That's a really good point. Yeah. Well, we'll keep this conversation going. I hope this is the first of many podcasts that we'll do together. Mm-hmm. Because we have these conversations all the time. Like we have, just so you guys know, with my staff, we have one-on-ones every week. Yes. And so I think maybe every other one-on-one might just be a podcast. Well, we haven't really talked about this yet, but I would love to do that, because that way people can get to know us better. Because here's the thing. When I'm on stage preaching, like I've been thinking about what I'm going to say the whole week. And so it's almost like it's a prepackaged, prepared message that I just deliver. But I feel like this is another angle to where you're just getting the real me on stage, but it's a different version of myself, in this conversation. Same with you. You're on stage every week, but it's good to get a glimpse of who we are. Like a little, it's almost like opening up the motor of a car. You see it from the outside, but now you get to see, a little bit more detail of what it is.
Yeah. Like the human parts.
Yeah.
Maybe the parts that are harder to share when you're at the pulpit.
Exactly.
Exactly. The parts that people don't want to hear that. But also our testimony is just so much more valuable than anything we could say except the gospel.
Exactly. Because the mistake I never want us to make is to pretend to be perfect.
Yeah.
That's like the worst thing that we can do is like, I'm on stage and I've got this perfect life. You've got this perfect life. No, I think that Christ shines even brighter through our brokenness.
Yep.
Right. And so that's kind of part of it too, is that, we got struggles. We're not perfect. We're sinners, in need of a savior every day, not just once when we're baptized. Every single day we need forgiveness and guidance and all that kind of stuff. And so, that's great. Well, thank you. Thank you for this moment that we shared.
Yes, thank you.
Any closing thoughts?
I just pray that everyone that gets to watch this is blessed, leaves changed, hears something that the Lord needed them to hear. And has a beautiful day.
Beautiful. All right, you guys. See you next time.